Cheers, here's Sudall. Oh, that ball is close. He's given him! He's given him! Peter Suddall's got a hat-trick on his birthday!
Hello and welcome back to the On The Ball podcast. This is episode 60 of the show. Today's a bit of a different one. I'm normally joined by one of my mates or a family member, but today I'm here on my own. It's a solo job for me today. And the reason that is we're talking about a sport that, let's say, it's not that mainstream, but I myself, I've been not hiding it, but I haven't really gotten around to getting around it at the moment in this show's history. But today we're ticking that off the bucket list, and we're going to be talking about the Tour de France. So the Tour de France, it started, I think, on the last day of August, maybe. There's been 9 stages so far. It's the first rest day. So I thought it would be the perfect time to sum up the first week and a bit of action. So yeah, there's not really anyone to introduce or anyone to check on, so I don't see why we can't just get straight into it. First of all, just a general overview. It's been a great start to the race. From my memory, obviously I'm only young, so I haven't seen like the 100 editions or whatever, but it's been the best week of racing I've ever witnessed at the Tour de France. Usually the first 5 stages are all fairly flat. We just get bunch sprints. Maybe the breakaway last to 5Ks left to go. That's the biggest excitement of the week. But it's been a hectic start. There was crosswinds, there was bunch sprints, there was little punchy climbs, there was huge mountains, mountaintop summit finishes. We've had it all really. And, it's just been awesome. We had Adam Yates in yellow for most of it. I think he held it for 4 days, which I believe was a Mitchelton Scott, or that team. It's been under many names, but that team's record. I think he broke Simon Gerrans and Daryl Impey's record of 3 days or something. We had Alaphilippe kicked out of the yellow jersey for grabbing a drink bottle when he wasn't allowed to. And now we've currently got Primoz Roglic in the yellow jersey. So I'm going to go team by team, and we're just going to review their team's performance so far, pretty much. We'll go straight into it. I've just mentioned the great man, Primoz Roglic, probably the most informed rider in the last 12 months. His team is Team Jumbo-Visma, and they've basically just come out. Everyone was kind of expecting it. It was being predicted, but I don't think this dominance has been predicted. They've come out and they've basically just been the new Team Sky. We've seen it in the last 3 or 4 stages on the big climbs. They're just doing the Sky thing where they just get 5 at the front. The leading man just goes hard for 5 to 10 minutes and then falls off. And then before you know it, when you're down to the last 3 blokes, the peloton is whittled down to just the GC favourites. So they're really testing the legs of the field very early on in the stages as well. Last night, so stage 9, we were down to the GC favourites with quite a long way to go. So they're doing a very good job of that. So Primoz Roglic is coming first in the GC. So he's got the yellow jersey for stage 10. He was the pre-race favourite. And I'll be honest, I don't really see anything that suggests that he's not going to just hold that the whole way through. There's obviously going to be a lot of changing parts. There's 2 weeks to go, so many mountains. We haven't even hit the Alps or anything yet. So the next 2, we'll talk about it later, the future stages. But so he's in yellow. Tom Dumoulin, he is in 14th, 3 minutes and 22 seconds behind his teammate. Look, he's not really going to be going for yellow, is he now? He's settled to just being like a super domestique for Primoz Roglic. But yeah, he's doing well himself. He looked to crack on one of the climbs. I think it was stage 7 or something. But he decided to do the team thing and he chopped out for Primoz. And that seems to be the way to go for Tom Dumoulin. I think it's going to be too hard. I think the field is too widespread to try and get a 1-2 finish, especially in the first week. I think you've got to just set up for one bloke, and then if it eventuates that way, well, then you take it. But yeah, Tom Dumoulin sitting in 14th. I think as we go, since he's in such a strong team, he might find himself in the top 10. But yeah, his aspirations are the same as Roglic's at the moment, and that's for Primoz to be in yellow at the end of the week, at the end of the 2 weeks. In green, Wout van Aert is actually sitting in third. He's probably been the rider of the race so far. He's just put on an absolute clinic. He's been crunching the peloton up 10% climbs. He's been leading the pace. Sometimes, Roglic and stuff are even struggling to keep up with him. And then he's winning bunch sprints. He won two sprints, so he's just a freak of nature. I've heard a lot about him. We saw him a little bit in the Tour de France last year, but I haven't really seen him at his best. But yeah, he honestly looks like Sagan version 2, but better. He's faster. Well, maybe not faster in terms of bunch sprints, but he can climb better. He's smarter. Yeah, he just seems like the ultimate rider. And honestly, we could be witnessing a once-in-a-generation talent here in Wout van Aert. It's interesting where he's going to go in the future. I think he does. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he has the mountain capabilities to go for GC in this race anyway. But I think he definitely could. Well, he's third for the green jersey at the moment. He's not even tried for it. So I think green jersey is something he definitely could win. I don't think he'll go for it here unless it just happens to fall on his shoulders. But yeah, he's solely looking out for Roglic at the moment. But two wins for him on two different stages. You'll take that any day. The team is sitting in fifth in the team's classification. I don't think they'll win that because they're probably going to expend too much energy just trying to break down that peloton every climb, as opposed to, a Movistar Trek-Segafredo who might have three in the peloton for quite a while, like your Sepp Kussers and stuff. They'll just be sending it to try and eliminate Roglic and Dumoulin's rivals. So yeah, they're top. They've had 3-stage wins, and then Roglic came second on stage 9. Got out-sprinted by Pogachar. So yeah, really great start from Jumbo-Visma. It was expected, but still to see it actually fabricate as it was expected has been pretty special to see. That takes us to the team who they're replicating, Team Sky, now known as Ineos Grenadiers. So their leader is Egan Bernal. He's sitting in second, 21 seconds behind Roglic. And I'm pretty sure Roglic... It'd be interesting to see if you took away Roglic's bonuses from his finishes and stuff like that, whether Bernal would be in yellow or not. I don't think he would be, but I think it would be a lot closer than 21 seconds. And then Carapaz sits at 15th, 3 minutes and 42 seconds behind Roglic. Interesting one with Ineos. They've looked good at times, but then they've also looked weak at times. Bernal looks awesome. He started slow, but each stage he's looking stronger and stronger. In stage 9, to be honest, if Roglic or Bernal cracked, I think it would have been Roglic. I think Bernal was really pushing him, and Pogacar as well. Roglic didn't look too good at some points in those climbs. And then Carapaz, obviously he's here to help out Bernal, but I think they were maybe hoping for, a Thomas and Froome kind of 1-2 or something. I don't think Carapaz is in that kind of form at the moment. But we'll see how he goes in the big mountains. Obviously, he's South American, so he's probably going to suit the big mountains in the Alps and stuff. But at the moment, he looks a little bit out of touch. But we'll see how he goes. He's going to be crucial to Bernal because although their team's still dominant and stuff, there's been quite a few times where Bernal's been isolated pretty early on in the climbs due to Jumbo-Visma's dominance. And then in terms of the white jersey, Bernal leads that. Obviously, Roglic isn't 25 or under, so Bernal's winning that white jersey. We'll talk about his contenders later for that jersey, but he looks like a good chance to hold that one right through to Paris. In terms of the team classification, they're 7th. Once again, they're not really going to be focusing on that, are they? They're going straight for that win. But, having Bernal and Carapaz up there will always help in that classification. They've only had one top 5 finish. Obviously, as I keep saying, they're not going for that. Bernal's been in the top 10 4 times, so he's been pretty consistent across the opening 9 days. On a sour note for Ineos Grenadiers, Sivakov, he's fighting hard, but he's currently in last place in the whole race. He was looking like he was going to be a really good asset coming into this Tour de France for Bernal. I think he did really well in the Dauphiné. And then, he crashed. It was either stage 1 or stage 2, and he really just has struggled since then. He's getting dropped on the climbs very early, and at the moment he's not really proving much help to the team. He's a bit of a passenger, but I'm sure over time his injuries will heal and he might come good in the third week, who knows, but we'll keep an eye on him because he could be huge for Bernal. Because if Bernal has Carapaz and Sivakov helping out, and you've obviously got Kwiatkowski and Castroviejo, all of a sudden they look like a force in the mountains again. Cofidis, we've got Guillaume Martin sitting in third, 28 seconds behind Primoz. This is probably up there for shock of the tour. We maybe should have seen it coming, given the fact that last year, I think it was, he came just outside the top 10 and he had no help from his team, Wanty Group Gobert. They just said, go for GC, we'll see how you go, and he came 12th. So coming 12th with no team helping him out, that's pretty impressive. So yeah, he's doing really well. Interesting to see now the French media is probably going to turn to him. Alaphilippe's lost yellow, he's lost heaps of time. Pinot, we'll talk about that later, but he's gone. Bardet's still there, but they publicly came out and made a point of saying that they're not going for yellow. But, they're 30 seconds behind, so they're not going for yellow. Definitely not. But I think Martin will start getting a bit more of the French media pressure. And we'll see how he goes, because we know a lot of the Frenchmen really struggle with that. But he's riding really well at the moment. Been looking really good on the climbs. There's not much else going for Cofidis, really. They've had a few top 10 finishes. I'm not too sure what's happening with Elia Viviani. He came 6th in stage 1, but we haven't seen him since. And there's been a few bunch sprints. I think there was a few stages where there was a bunch sprint, but there was like a climb to get over, and I don't think he got over. Or he might have crashed early. There was so many crashes early, it's hard to keep track of who's injured and stuff. But yeah, Guillaume Martin's the shining light for Cofidis at the moment. Herrada came 2nd on a stage. I think that might have been to Lutsenko. I think that was that one. And so that was a pretty good effort. They're a bit strange though, Cofidis, because like Martin's sitting in 3rd, but they've still got blokes going for the stage win. So like Laporte came 4th on stage 7, Herrada 2nd, stage 6. So I don't know. We'll see how they go. The next 2 stages suit Viviani. He's, we know he's one of the best all-out flat men in those bunch sprints. However, his team is a lot worse than the teams he's used to dealing with. So we'll see how he goes there. They've had one DNF so far, Anthony Perez, but I don't think that'll affect Martin too much. Agit is Le Mondial. Romain Bardet, as I mentioned before, he's sitting in 4th, 30 seconds behind Primoz Roglic. He's really impressed me. He's looking like normal Bardet. There was a lot of talk going into it that Bardet's just going for the stage wins late in the tour, into the mountains. But he honestly looks like the Bardet that's finished on the podium before, and he looks really good in the climbs. He looks like he's ready to attack. So yeah, and he's obviously a great descender. So in the big mountain stages, I can't see why he can't, even push Bernal and Roglic and try and crack them. So yeah, France actually having a pretty good tour despite Alaphilippe and Pinot underachieving. They've got Martin and Bardet in 3rd and 4th. What other things going for Agit is they've got the King of the Mountains. They've actually got a 1-2 in the King of the Mountains, which is pretty rare. They've got Benoit Cosnefroy on 36 points, and then they've got Knowles Peters on 31 points. Cosnefroy is making a concerted effort for that jersey. I'm not sure if Peters is. I think that's all just from his breakaway win on stage 8. That was probably another highlight for Agit Desert. Peters won stage 8, and then their other top 10s have come from Bardet and Venturini, who actually finished in the top 10. I haven't heard much about that bloke, but 2 top 10s on the stages where he had to get over a few climbs, and then there was a bunch sprint. So good footy from him. Other things going for Agit Desert, Oliver Naesen, I wanted to mention him. I can't lie, he burst onto the scene 2 or 3 years ago. He's a bit of a classic specialist, so we have to allow him, some slack. But he's gone for a few sprints. He's not even cracked the top 10. I think that's why they gave up on him and went Venturini. He's being dropped on the climbs very early. I just don't really know what he's doing. He's kind of just in between at the moment, which I guess is what a classic specialist is. But he can't really produce results for the team on the flats. He's not really helping out Bardet at any stage. So I'm not too sure what he's doing. It's a bit strange. Also, Pierre Latour, he's helping out Bardet a little bit, but hopefully he finds the form he was in, 2 years ago, where it can really help him in the high mountains. Next, we've got Arkea-Samsic. They've got Nairo Quintana in 5th, 32 seconds behind Roglic. I keep saying this, but I've been really impressed with Nairo Quintana. I think on I don't remember what stage number it was, but the stage where there was the crosswinds, I think he didn't get enough plaudits there. That's usually a kind of stage Quintana would lose time on. He's always been great on the climbs, good descender, but it's those little attention to detail moments with Nairo, which is where he usually loses out to the Team Skies of the world. But he nailed that test, and he's really not failed anything. Lost a bit of time on stage 9, but only like 10 seconds or something. So I think he's looking really good, and this is, I think, in history, this is like the most mountainous Tour de France of all time or something. Least flat stages, maybe. I think there's only 4. So really suits Nairo, and if we get some huge all category climbs, I think Nairo could really push Roglic. We'll see how he goes against Bernal, but Bernal will probably enjoy those climbs too. But yeah, I think Nairo can be really dangerous in the next 2 weeks. Bit concerned about the team around him. A lot of the times he is by himself very, very quickly. But we'll see how he goes. He does have Warren Barguil, who, he's done well in the past, so he might be able to help him there. But yeah, the rest of the team's kind of struggling, but Nairo seems to be doing it all on his own at the moment, and it seems to be working for him. What else is going for Arkea-Samsic? They're 10th in the team thing. Once again, they're just focusing on Nairo, so it doesn't matter too much. Diego Rosa was a DNF early in the tour, and their 2 top 10s are from Nairo himself, so not too much going for Arkea apart from Nairo. Warren Barguil, he's the kind of guy who could win a stage, but obviously with Nairo's performances, they're not going to be looking at stage wins. They're going to be looking at that yellow jersey or the podium. Next, we've got EF Pro Cycling Education first. They've got Rigoberto Urán sitting at 6th, 32 seconds behind Roglic, so tied with Nairo. And they've got Sergio Higuita, 19th, sitting 6 minutes and 8 seconds behind. So he's probably not going to be going for it himself. They kind of came in looking like Movistar last year. They kind of came in with a bit of a trident with Urán, Danny Martinez, and Sergio Higuita, but Uran's the clear leader there. So hopefully Higuita turns his attention to Urán rather than focusing on himself. However, he's only 6 minutes behind, so I don't think the peloton would let him get away too easily. But yeah, I don't know why. Every time they show Higuita on the coverage, he seems to be getting dropped, but I guess you've got to be there to get dropped, and usually by that time there's not many left, so I guess he's doing well. But yeah, Uran's been really impressive. People were questioning him coming into the tour, thought he was a bit past it. He was kind of in his prime in like 2017-18, but he's been really good. Hasn't looked at all phased on the climbs, never really looked like being dropped massively. Once again, like Nairo, he lost a bit of time the other day, but only 10 or so seconds. And then in the young jersey, Sergio Higuita qualifies for that one. So he is 4th in that, 5 minutes and 47 seconds behind Bernal. So once again, probably a bit out of his reach, but who knows? The mountains are pretty outrageous. Could be some crashes, God forbid. But yeah, we'll find out there. EF Pro Cycling are also coming 2nd in the team classification. So as I mentioned, they've got that trident there. So they're going to be right up there to the very end in that classification, you'd think, with 2 guys in the top 20 and a few other decent riders. Well, pretty good riders. They've got a Grand Tour rider there. They only lost out to Trek-Segafredo. Oh no, Trek-Segafredo lost out as well. They lost out to Movistar, on stage 9, to, be superseded in the team classification. In terms of stage finishes, Nielsen Powless, the American climber, he's done really well on 2 breakaways. He had a 4th and a 5th. So he's been really good on the climbs, just has run out a bit of gas at the end of the stages, but he's done well. And then, obviously, Gita had a top 10 in there. I've got a few question marks around EF Pro Cycling, though. TJ Van Garderen, I know he's past his prime, that's for sure. He had a lot of injuries when he was in his prime, so I'm sure that's all catching up to him now. But I just question, I don't know, he's just not really offering the team much. You never really see him up there late in the climbs, helping the boys out. I think he's over an hour and a half behind Roglic. And you think someone of his experience and his climbing ability, he would be great service to these leaders, but I'm not sure he's providing what you'd expect TJ Van Garderen to do. But I know he is past it, so I don't want to attack him or anything. And then Danny Martinez, he came in looking really good. I think he won the Dauphiné, but he crashed. I think he had a few crashes early, and that's really hurt him. He's up over 40 minutes behind or something now. So that's a bit of a letdown for Pro Cycling, but EF Pro Cycling. But it might help them. We saw Movistar last year really struggle with juggling 3 leaders, so maybe it'll help to just narrow their focus onto Rigoberto. So we'll see how that goes. Next up, we've got Uae Team Emirates. This guy's been an absolute star. So sitting in 7th, we've got Taday Pogachar, 44 seconds behind Roglic, his Slovenian counterpart. How crazy is it that there's 2 Slovenians in the top 10? But yeah, anyway. Right next to Van Aert and Guillaume Martin, Pogachar's probably been one of the most impressive riders to me. I know he had big raps on him. I think he might have won a stage at the Vuelta at the age of 20. But yeah, he's been awesome. He got dropped on the crosswind day. He lost about 1 minute and 45 seconds. But then the last 2 days, stage 8 and 9, he has been superb. Just attacking at every opportunity. He's just been scintillating to watch. He's had 4 top 10s, including a stage win on stage 9. And yeah, he's just been breathtaking. His speed, when he attacks on the climbs, he does it with such pace. Everyone just panics. He's so good to watch. So he sits in 2nd in the white jersey as well, 23 seconds behind Bernal. So that he's a genuine contender there. But he's also a genuine contender for the GC. He's probably, apart from that crosswind day, obviously, he's probably looked the most impressive of all the GC riders on the climbs in the last 2 days. And then another thing for UAE Team Emirates, they had Alexander Kristoff, who won stage 1, which meant he held the maillot jaune or the yellow jersey for stage 2. So that's obviously a big highlight for them. And then Kristoff sits in 6th in the green jersey. I don't think he's really competing for it. I don't think he has the mountain capabilities of a Sagan. But who knows, if he wins the next 2 flat finishes and starts grinding on those intermediate points, he might be there in Paris wearing green. Fabio Aru, I don't know if he got caught by the car at the back for the time cut or he just quit on stage 9, but he's out of the race. That's really disappointing. I can't lie, there's a bit of attitude issue, I think, there. We saw he struggled with the leadership of Nibali when he was coming into the Astana setup. And yeah, he just seems like a bit of a brat. Can't handle that Pogachar's the team leader. And we saw one day in the mountains, rather than helping out Pogachar, he just went for a little attack himself. So he seems like a pretty selfish bloke. And he crashed and he said it's a shame because he doesn't get to help Pogachar, but I honestly don't think he gives a rat's ass about that. So that's a little bit annoying because he'll probably get a lot of fame and stuff in other races, but he's a bit of a dog in this race. Another guy I question, David Formolo. He's over 50 minutes behind Roglic, so he's a lot out of touch. He's a great climber when he's in form. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks he finds some form and is able to help Pogachar. Next up, we've got Mitchelton Scott. Their leader, well, I don't know who their leader is. I think going into it, it was actually meant to be Esteban Chavez, but it ended up being Adam Yates. He's in 5th at the moment, 1 minute and 2 seconds behind Roglic. And he held, as I mentioned before, he held the yellow jersey for I think 4 days, maybe 5, due to Alaphilippe being, kicked out of it for the drink bottle incident. But then Adam Yates well and truly earned it. Defended it beautifully, and I have to say his team's pretty weak. I know Matt White, the director sportif of Mitchelton Scott, came out and slammed some of the support cast to Adam Yates, and I completely agree with it. I think they've been pretty soft. He's been left in the peloton by himself when, Jumbo-Visma and Ineos still have 4 or 5 riders. So he's sitting in 8th. Esteban Chavez is sitting in 20th. He's been a bit disappointing, I can't lie. He's been getting dropped on the climbs very early. He said on one of the backstage passes on YouTube that he struggles when it's a short, sharp climb, and he rathers like a 30k long climb. But yeah, I'm sorry, it's still not good enough. He's 12 minutes back on Roglic. So now he's basically just turned to being a super domestique for Adam Yates. But I don't know, Mitchelton Scott's in a tricky situation here because they know Adam Yates not going to win. He doesn't have the climbing capabilities, I'm sorry. But they're not far enough out that they can go for stage wins yet, which was their goal coming into the tour. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the next 2 weeks. They sit in 9th in the team classification. Apart from Yates, who had 4 top 10s, Mezgec, he came 6th in one of the sprints, but ultimately he's not the fastest sprinter, so he's doing the best with what he's got there. 6th, you'll take that any day of the week. Miguel Nieve, he's been a little bit disappointing. Similar to Chavez, he's been getting dropped very early. He hasn't been helping Adam Yates much. And then Daryl Impey, he's been very quiet. Usually he's hard to avoid in the Tour de France. He's usually everywhere. Those, rolling hill days where they're not too mountainous, he's usually up and about on those and, sprinting for the finish, but we haven't seen him much at all, to be honest. And yeah, Adam Yates is going, he announced just before the tour, it was announced, he announced that he's going to Ineos next year. So that's an interesting one. They've obviously got Froome leaving, GT, Geraint Thomas, he's getting older, so maybe they're looking at Yates as a potential GC guy, or they see him as a super domestic, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, moving on to Astana, they've got Miguel Angel Lopez, the best name to say in cycling, in 9th. He's 1 minute and 15 behind Roglic. And I'll be honest, I just can't see this bloke winning the Tour. I don't think he's consistent enough. He's similar to Nairo back in his prime. He's very prone to a crack on one of the big mountain days, despite being a super climber. So I don't see him winning, but, a top 10 finish will definitely be a likely thing, maybe even a top 5. I think his teams, they're doing all right. They're kind of inconsistent. There'll be 3 there at points in when no one has anyone, and then he'll be alone very quick at the back. So it's kind of inconsistent with Astana. Lutsenko. So he had a great win on stage 6. You can't take that away from him. Breakaway win, blah, blah, blah. But with a guy like a climbing, he really impressed me on the climbs. I was just wondering, why isn't this guy helping out Miguel Angel Lopez? And I haven't seen him helping him out on the climbs in the following days. So a bit confused how they're using Lutsenko there. They sit in 6th in the team classification, so we'll see how they go there. Probably not going to win it, but who knows? They could aim for that. Next up, we've got Bahrain Mclaren. I think these guys have kind of been going under the radar. They lost time, I believe, on the crosswind day. Land is sitting in 10th, 1 minute and 42 seconds behind Roglic, and Damiano Caruso is sitting in 16th, 3 minutes and 42 behind Roglic. So they could be looking at 2 top 15s, maybe a top 5 and a top 10 if things go well, which would be an awesome result. Their team sits in 8th, so behind that, those two, they mustn't have much depth. But Landers looked really good in the climbs the last couple of days. He was there with the leading pack on stage 9. with, Bernal, Roglic and Pogacar and Port kind of. Landa's been really impressive despite that crosswind day. So on a big mountains day, he's the kind of guy who could win back some time. We've seen it in the past. He attacks well on the big mountains. So you've got to really keep an eye on Landa. I don't think he has the best team around him though, which doesn't help. But he does have Caruso if he needs. They're in 8th in the team, as I mentioned before. Rafael Valls, he is out. And Sonny Colbrelli, he's my question mark there. He crashed, I think, on stage 1 or 2. So he's been really struggling, but we'll see how he goes in the next 2 days, I guess, because he's normally a pretty good sprinter, normally in the top 10, so we'll see how he goes, but I think he's still recovering from those crashes, so maybe not. Next up, we've got Trek-Segafredo. This is the Aussie, Richie Port's team. He's sitting in 11th, a minute and 53 behind Roglic, and Bauke Mollema is sitting in 13th, 2 minutes and 31 seconds behind Roglic. Similarly to Landa and... who did I mention before? I can't remember. They lost time... Pogacar, sorry. They lost time on the crosswind day to Roglic and the leaders, but they've looked really impressive on the climbs. As I mentioned, Port kind of made it to that top group on the climb on stage 9, just was a couple metres behind them, and then got dropped on the descent. But he looks in really good form. He normally crashes out on stage 9. I think he's crashed out 3 or 4 times, so he was calling it stage 8B. But he got through that safely, and he's looking in really good form. I think there's a lot less pressure on him this year. I don't think people were expecting too much coming into it from Richie, which they normally do, and I think that's really suiting him. And the dynamic duo of him and Mollema is quite dangerous on the big mountains, because, they can work together and stuff. So I like both of them for a top 10 finish here. Their team is sitting in 3rd in the team classification, but if they both come top 10, I think there'll be a good chance of the win in that classification. But yeah, glad to see Port doing well and staying on the bike, keeping the bike vertical, because he's had issues with that in the past. In terms of the Green King of the Mountains, they've got Thomas Scoynes on 24 points, but I'm not sure if he'll be focusing on that. I think they'll be focusing on the leaders, but who knows? Trek-Segafredo, they're a bit of a random team. I think they've had the most top 10 finishes in this first 9 stages. Mads Pedersen's come top 10, Jasper Stuyven's had 3, Bauke Mollema's had 3, Richie Port's had 1, Tom Scoynes has had 1, Dylan Terns has had 1. So they've had a really impressive first 9 days, actually. Probably one of the more underrated teams, but just got a lot of depth. All their guys are pretty good at something. My question mark, he did come second on stage 1, but Mads Pedersen, I was probably expecting a little bit more from the world champion. I thought stage 5 and 7, the one Van Aert one, I thought they were kind of stages that Pedersen could do well on, but he was nowhere to be seen. So I'm not sure if he's had crashes along the way, like I said, but that was a bit of a question mark there. Next up, we've got Movistar. Interesting one for Movistar. They have not been getting much airtime at all. Normally, they're one of the most televised teams. They've got, Valverde, Quintana, Landa in the past. But this year, they've got Enric Mas, Alejandro Valverde, and then, Marc Soler, but he's quite a long way back now. But I don't think I've seen Valverde once in the 9 stages, and Enric Mas only a couple times. Mas is coming in 12th, 2 minutes and 2 seconds behind Roglic. Valverde's in 17th, 3 minutes and 43 seconds behind Roglic. Realistically, neither of these guys are GC threats. Mas is only 2 minutes back, but I just can't see him winning. Once again, they've gone for this dual leadership thing, which it can work sometimes, but it can sometimes, play against you. But Mas, he's doing well to be above Valverde. I think Marc Soler's been a bit disappointing. I think he's around 35 minutes back or something, which you'd expect more from him. But in the team classification, they're coming first, which is important for them. Sorry about that. The camera just turned off. I had to turn it back on. But yeah, Movistar, they really put a lot of importance on that team classification. I think they've won it 4 of the last 5 times. So they're coming first in that, and probably the favourite to carry that out in the mountains with, Mas, Valverde and Soler, all good mountain specialists. Mas, he's also eligible for the white jersey. He sits in third, a minute and 41 behind Bernal. Honestly, I can't see Mas finishing above Bernal or Pogachar, but definitely a top 3 there is likely. So yeah, Movistar, they've had a bit of a strange one. Probably a little bit less star-studded as normal, but they're having their impact on the races as normal, and we'll see them, I'm sure, a lot more in the mountains, with their climbing capabilities. Next up, we've got Bora-Hansgrohe. Emmanuel Bookman in 18th, 5 minutes and 45 back. So now we're starting to get to the section where these guys, are they still in it? It's up in the air. It'll take a big mountain stage or even a breakaway to probably get this bloke back into contention. He came in, I believe he was only told he's going to be racing the Tour de France about 3 days before it started, so that's not the best preparation. But he did come. I think he came 4th last year, so 18th. They'd probably be expecting a little bit more. However, obviously for Bora, they've got Peter Sagan, and he's winning the green jersey. Surprise, surprise. He's on 138 points. He's got a 7-point lead on Bennett. So I don't know if Sagan will hold it for the next couple days, maybe even this week. But I think if he stays in the race, I think over the mountains, because after these 2 stages, I think the next flat ones are the last stage in Paris. So I think if Sagan can, race out the whole 3 weeks, I think eventually throughout the climbs and with breakaways and stuff, I think he'll overtake Bennett or whoever wins the next 2 sprints or overtakes him on the green jersey points standings. So I think he's in for, I don't know, it might be his 8th green jersey now, which is just insane. He's the best bike rider of my generation. Well, the generation I've followed. I put him above Chris Froome, which is debatable for a lot of people, I'm sure. But yeah, not much else is going for them. Sagan, he's not looked great in the sprints, I have to admit, but he's always in the top 10, which is important. Which is what is important for that green jersey. He's come 5th. He's come 5th twice and a 4th. So that's big points, and I think each time he's finished behind Bennett only 1 or 2 places, who's probably his biggest rival for this green jersey. So he's just a master of it by now. He's done it so many times. He knows the perfect game plan. And Bora, they caused the chaos on the crosswinds day. So congrats to them for making a flat stage spicy. Next up, we've got B&B Hotels. At first, I can't lie, I did think this was Airbnb. I haven't seen too much cycling this season. So I haven't seen this team, really. Their leader, well, they're not really going for GC or anything, but their main guy is Pierre Rolon. Obviously, hero of French cycling. He's sitting in 21st, 15 minutes back, so he's almost getting to that stage where the peloton will let him go into breakaways, let him have a crack at the win. And with Rolon's capabilities in the mountains, I definitely think a stage win from him would not shock me at all. Then they've got Brian Cocka sitting in 4th in the green jersey, 106 points. So he's 32 points back on Sagan. Doesn't have the climbing ability of Sagan, so good luck to the young fella. Well, he's not young anymore. They were saying on the broadcast that he doesn't have a single professional win, which is outrageous for someone who's contesting Tour de France sprints and stuff. You'd assume they're dominating other races. So I hope he snags one in the next 2 because he's always there or thereabouts. So far this race he's come 8th, 9th, 7th and 3rd. So I guess he's getting closer, slowly but surely. And then they've got Pacher in 6th on the King of the Mountains on 20 points. But, the King of the Mountains, it's not like the green jersey. It's kind of just... Like, for example, Hershey, who we'll get to, he had one big day yesterday on stage 9, and now he's up to 3rd. So it's very volatile, the King of the Mountains, depending on who's in the breakaway and stuff like that. But I'm sure Pacher will try and get in a few more breaks and contest that polka dot jersey. Next up, we've probably got disappointment of the race. I hate to add to the pressure that he already is receiving, but Groupama-FDJ, Thibaut Pinot, he sits in 24th. 28 minutes back. So I guess if you want some silver lining, he's far enough back that they'll let him go for stage wins in the breakaway, which he's done before in the past. he looks a lot more energetic and lively doing that because there's less pressure on him. So I'm sure we might see the best of Thibaut Pinot in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, he looks out of form at the moment in terms of GC riding. And yeah, it's just, it's rough to see because we all know he's got the physical ability to do it, but at this point it's just mental capacity. And I don't want to question a cyclist on mental strength because that's basically what cycling is. But just the scrutiny he cops from the French media, he just doesn't handle it as well as some of the others like Alaphilippe and Bardet. He's cracked once again. And the thing that, I don't know, frustrates me as a viewer, I know we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but when he cracks, it's almost like he gives up. He doesn't seem to fight and just try and keep the gap to like a minute or two. Like when he cracked, I don't know, I think it was on stage 8, he was riding with his team. His team basically sat up. So I don't know if their plan was to get the gap big enough so he could win stages or... but they just didn't look like they were really that interested in keeping him close to the yellow jersey. So that's a little bit disappointing. It can't be avoided there. So that's basically all that's happened for Groupama-FDJ. They haven't really brought a sprinter. It was all eyes on Pinot, and that hasn't happened. So I'm sure we'll see some breakaway attempts from them in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully some stage wins for their team. But yeah, frustrating for Pinot, and I can't lie, I think that's his yellow jersey window gone. I hate to be the bearer of bad news there, Thibaut. Next, we've got the CCC team, Triple C. Their top guy in GC is Ilnur Zakarin, 33 minutes and 53 back, 28th. He came fourth on stage 8. We all saw his horrible descending, or that the commentators were describing as horrific. Can't say I'm a descending expert myself. So he's far enough back that he'll be able to go for more breakaways. He's such a talented climber. I think he might be able to, get a few top 5 finishes. But probably it'd probably just be stage 8 on repeat where he climbs well and then his descending lets him down. So we'll see how he fares. Greg Van Avermaet as well. He's probably been the quiet achiever of this Tour de France. He's 10th in the green jersey, sitting in 64 points. He's had a 4th and a 3rd. So I can't lie, I haven't noticed him too much, but he's been pretty close to 2 stage wins, which is impressive for Greg Van Avermaet. I think no one was really expecting him to do that this year. And then they've had Matteo Trenton, been a little bit disappointing in the bunch sprints, I can't lie, but he's sitting in 5th in the green jersey. It looked like he was going to contest Sagan early, but he's kind of given up on the last couple stages. But yeah, who knows? A couple wins in the next 2 stages could be right back in the hunt for that. CCC, they're a bit of a strange team. Formerly BMC, who were always one of the best teams in the peloton, but this year they didn't really bring a GC rider. Zakarin, he's gone GC in the past, but he's a different rider now. Van Avermaet's past his best, so it's a bit strange what they're achieving at the moment, but they look a lot worse than what they used to. Sorry about that. Total Direct Energy. They've got Romain Sicard, their top GC guy, 31st, 37 minutes back. I can't lie, this team hasn't really done much. Calmajan was a DNF, who was probably their most exciting rider. They've had 2 top 10s with Turgi and Bonifacio. Can't lie, I don't really know too much about those 2 blokes either. Just moving on. Sorry, Direct Energy. I'm sure they'll be fair in the breakaways and push for a few stage wins, but good luck to them. Next, we've got Deceuninck-Quick-Step, Julian Alaphilippe's team. He's 41 minutes back on GC, despite having the yellow jersey for 2 days, I think it was, earlier on in the race. So I think that's a little bit disappointing. I think they could have been aiming for a top 20 finish, maybe even a top 10. But I think now they're just going to go for stage wins. They've got Sam Bennett to contest the next 2 flat stages in the Champs-Élysées stage, and then they've got Alaphilippe for the mountain stages. And he's got such a quick turn of pace, so I'm sure he'll cause some havoc there. But they've had a pretty good... I know people are saying Alaphilippe's been disappointing, but I think if Bennett comes second in the green jersey, snags a stage win, Alaphilippe's had 2 days in yellow, maybe he stags a breakaway win, all of a sudden that's a pretty good tour from Deceuninck-Quick-Step. They've had something like 6 top 5 finishes. So Bennett 4th, stage 1. Alaphilippe 1st, stage 2. Bennett 2nd, stage 3. Alaphilippe 5th, stage 4. Bennett 3rd, stage 5. And Alaphilippe 5th, stage 6. So they were pretty dominant early, especially. In the mountains, they came a little bit unstuck. But now, they've got no one in contention for GC. They can just let loose for stage wins and the flat stages. Next, we've got Ntt Pro Cycling. 45th, they had Dominic Pozzovivo, 48 minutes back. I did just read, though, he's quit the Tour de France from earlier crashes. I was going to put question marks around him because he used to be a very good rider. Well, he still is, but 48 minutes back, that's unheard of for him. But I've heard it's crash-related, and that makes a little bit more sense. So I can't lie, there's not too much going on for this team. They also had Yakima Nitzoli, the Italian and European champion, as of 2 weeks ago. He crashed out. I'm pretty sure he crashed early, and then he quit the tour. But he had a 7th and 3rd before he did so not too bad, but they would have been hoping for an early stage win from him. And then Boasson-Hagen came second to Wout van Aert on stage 7. So I'm sure Boasson-Hagen will have a crack at the 2 flat stages coming up tonight and tomorrow night. Next, we've got Team Sunweb. Another guy up there for rider of not tournament, rider of the race, sorry. They've got Mark Hershey, young Swiss rider. I think he's 22, and I think he's like 4th youngest in the race. He's coming 60th an hour behind. So to non-cycling fans, this sounds alien. An hour behind, but he's one of the riders of the tour. But yeah, he came 2nd on stage 2, 3rd on stage 9. Both of them he put in really impressive attacks. And yeah, he's just been pipped for 2 stage wins. He's coming 3rd in the King of the Mountains, so he could contest for that. He's 26 points. He's good enough to do so. Probably their disappointment, though, I don't know what's going on with Nicola Roach, however they say it, but he's over an hour back. He used to be a really good rider, but he's kind of fallen off a cliff recently, so he's a bit, I don't know what's going on there. And then Cease-Boll, he's done pretty well, but they'll be hoping for a stage win for him in the next 2 days. He's had a 3rd, a 7th, a 2nd, so he's been very close, but they'll be hoping for that number 1 stage. And all of a sudden, if they have a stage win, they have Hershey win the King of the Mountains. It's a pretty good tour for Sunweb. All right, last 2 teams. We've got Israel Startup Nation. Look, without being disrespectful, they haven't done much. Their lead guy is Dan Martin, but he's over an hour back. Nothing like the Dan Martin of old, bit like Nicola Roach there. They've had quite a few top 10s, which I'll be honest, I haven't noticed. They've had Hofstetter. He's had a 4th, 10th, 7th. And then they had Ben Herman 6th on stage 8. So I think Hofstetter might be contesting tonight and tomorrow night's stage. So we'll see how he goes. Question marks with this one. Andre Greipel. He's not even contesting the stages. And no offense to Andre, that's kind of been the only thing he's been able to do in his career. So I'm not too sure what he's doing on the team. Maybe leadership for Hofstetter. I don't know. Then finally, we've got Lotto Sudall. I don't want to bash hard too much on this team. They had Degen, Colbin, Gilbert, DNF'd on the first 2 stages, and then last night they had Steph Crass pull out. So they're down to about 5 riders, I think. They have had a stage win with Caleb Ewan, so any Tour de France where you achieve a stage win, that's pretty much automatically a win. He's 8th in the green jersey, too far back, doesn't have the climbing prowess to do it, but he's definitely in contention for the next few stages. He's just so fast, so good to watch. I love watching the small, compact sprinters like your Cavendishes and now your Caleb Ewans. So as an Aussie, I hope he gets up, but ultimately it's going to be tough. He doesn't have many lead-out men left. But I guess in the sprint, you can always just tag on to the back of someone else's train, and he seems to do that pretty bloody well. And then finally, they've got Thomas Degen, who's not their GC man, but their mountains man, famous for his breakaways. Haven't seen him too much yet, so we could see him, we'll see him in the next 2 weeks. So good luck to him on his breakaway adventures. All right, now we'll be previewing the next week of racing. So tonight, on the 8th of September, because I don't know when you're listening to this, we've got Stage 10 completely flat. I'm not too sure what the winds are like. There might be crosswinds, but this looks like it's just going to be a pure bunch sprint. There's also an intermediate sprint, so it's going to be a big day for the green jersey, but ultimately it's going to be hard to catch Sagan with his climbing abilities following these two stages, but who knows. Stage 11, once again, it's flat. A little bit of a kick. There's a stage 4, level 4 climb, but honestly, that's not testing anyone. Once again, big points on offer for the green jersey there. For those two stages, I don't think Sagan has the pace to win a stage. I'd love to see Cocka get his first win. I'd like to see Cease-Boll get a win. He's fought hard. I'd like to see Ewan get another win as well. It'll be interesting to see how Viviani goes, because he's kind of gone missing. Sonny Colbrelli in that same boat. It'll be interesting to see how he goes. Christoph as well. He's been pretty quiet since stage 1. So there's a lot of guys to watch in the sprints. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. And then we go straight into the big boys. Stage 12, it doesn't look too dangerous, but it's kind of one of those where it's going to be more susceptible to attacks. Sometimes those huge mountain days, everyone's so worried about cracking themselves, they kind of hold back. But the ones with the stage 3s, the stage 2s, like the one with Alaphilippe and Yates, where they attacked, they can be often a lot more exciting, and then there's a descent to the finish. So I don't know who it suits. I'll be honest, probably suits Primož Roglič, rather than some of the other pure climbers in that top 10. But Pogachar, at this point, I don't think much can stop him. Stage 13, this is when we really hit the mountains, in the massive Central. Couple stage level 1 climbs, couple level 2s, couple level 3s, and there's a summit finish. So it's going to be an interesting one. There'll probably be another one that's pretty big for GC and also the King of the Mountains. So many points on offer there. So I'm sure we'll see a change of hands in the polka dot jersey on that day. Then for the rest of the week, it's basically just mountains. Stage 14, interesting. There's a 2 level 4 climbs, category 4. I forgot the word. It's category, isn't it? 2 category 4 climbs in the last 20 kilometers. So it might not be a stage for a pure sprinter, because there's Cat 2s and Cat 3s early, but surely the team can just carry the sprinters over for that. And then there's 2 Cat 4s. So I don't know. It could suit maybe even a Wout van Aert or a Alaphilippe, or a Greg van Avermaet. So we'll see how they go there. Then we're looking at stage 15 now. Oh my God. 2 Cat 1s and an all category climb in the last 60 kilometers. That's going to be one to watch. I think the GC could be decided on that day. Probably not decided, but there'll be definitely people eliminated from the GC race there. That's going to be huge. So that's one we'll definitely test. And then we've got the rest day. So great. I'll be back doing the same episode for that rest day. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go from there. I'm going to make a few predictions. Yellow jersey. Oh, I don't want to be boring. I'm going to say Egan Bernal. Nah, actually, I'm just going for a risk. I think it's going to be Bernal or Roglič, but I'll just say Romain Bardet. He's looked pretty good, so I'll back him in to get his 30 seconds back. Green jersey. I don't think Sagan will have it back at this stage next week, to be honest, but I think he'll end up with it. So I'm going to go... let's go Sam Bennett. Let's back him in tonight. King of the Mountains, could be anyone. Too hard to guess, but I'll give it to Thibaut Pinot. I reckon they'll let him have a crack somewhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening. If you have, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, if you've enjoyed it. And I guess I'll see you next time. Thanks.